association. With our association in particular, and through a lot of initiatives, our presence at the Midwest Clinic, lots of places. And Mike Kamphuis has been a big partner with us over the years. Mike is now the Chief Education Officer for Conselmer. And if you're not familiar with some of our partnerships, I believe they just wrapped up their annual summer workshop in person, beautiful music education workshop, but also tons of resources on their website, especially following up on the flute session we just had. Everything you need to know that when you're having that moment of need. And yeah, Mike's been with Conselma, I want to say, just over 25 years. We've done a lot of wonderful things. And we've got just under an hour. We'll have some questions at the end. Would you guys join me in dropping a reaction to say hello to Mike Kamphuis?
Hey everybody. Good to see everyone. Catherine, thanks for the kind introduction. It's so great to be here with everyone. And boy, you all have sure stacked the deck this year as far as presenters go, looking at what's going on till 9 o'clock tonight. So just wonderful content. Good to see the MBDNA folks here. We've enjoyed our partnership and relationship for a lot of years now and look forward to continuing that for a lot of years to come as well. With the time I have today, and thanks Gregory Denson for reaching out and inviting me to be here today. I have a lot of information that I want to throw at everybody to give you a sense of where the current state of music education is, where things are heading in regards to funding, trends that I'm seeing, and so forth, and things we can do to have an impact as advocates, no matter what program we might be in. So I'm going to pull up a deck here, and Kath, if you can just help me make sure that it's sharing okay, that would be appreciated. Let's see here. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do content only if that's okay. That way we can see everything together. Is that coming through okay for us, Catherine?
Yes, we can see it.
Yep. I'm seeing thumbs up from everybody. Wonderful. Thank you so much. So what I want to hit on first is basically a little historical context on why is Con Summer so involved in music education and policy and all of these things. And many of you are familiar with our organization, and one of the things you may not be familiar with is that back in the late 1890s, CG Con was one of the first entities to start a conservatory. We had the CG Con Conservatory of Music, which was training folks to be more in the military bands back then and so forth. And then when CG Con sold the company in 1915, a gentleman named Carl Greenleaf, we actually have a Greenleaf Avenue in Elkhart, Indiana, named after him. He started the CG Con National School of Music, which was a certified program to create music educators back then. And it was part of the whole school music movement. So for me, what I see is I have a lot of history in this company, 25 years now, but I have a responsibility to carry on the tradition of how we support music education and how we make sure that industry and education going back to 1915 are still as strong of a partnership together as they can be to make sure that it's sustainable for many years to come. Many of you know Dr. Tim Lotzenheiser. He started our Consumer Institute in 1997. So we have year 30 next year that we're tremendously excited about. I really appreciate the video that you shared beforehand. I had a chance to reflect on all the great relationships that were made this last year. But if you haven't been to a Consumer Institute and you want to learn more about things off the podium and things that are relevant to music education, it's a great opportunity to collaborate. So with that, there's been a lot of things that we've been through over the last 4 or 5 years, including this starting. 6 years ago now, we're in the 6th year of this. And when we went through the pandemic, we had a lot of education funding that was done during the stimulus package that was set forth. And so this is some of the context I want to just share as to what we're seeing. So, the ESSER program injected about $190 billion into the K-12 market through 2024. We're actually still seeing some remnants of that spending happening in 2025 and even a little bit in early 2026 from what I've heard around the country. That funding is behind us, and what that's created in our industry overall is a little bit of a bullwhip situation where you've had this glutton of funding come in, and all of a sudden, everybody has a lot of different resources and things that happen during that period. So the funding has, I don't want to say dried up, but as to how the approach is, bonds went away for a period of time because districts were like, why do we need to do a bond because of all this stimulus funding that's happening? There was just a huge change in the cycle of funding that we see across the country, both at the federal and the state level. So that being said, bond cycles, we are seeing that starting to resume right now across the country. More votes have happened this last cycle in regards to bonds that support education. We're starting to see that come about across the country in a way that is hopefully going to offset some of the lack of funding that we've seen that historically has come from bonds in the future of music education. So what ESSER did is it covered the real urgent needs. The bonds were really fatigued, and that caused this post-pandemic kind of gap in funding that we're seeing across the country. These bond referendums have always been a big part of the educational system, and we're starting to see that trek a little more this past cycle and heading forward. And now that we're in a new cycle starting July 1st for many states across the country, the hope is that this trajectory continues for the months ahead. And what we did feel this last year, if you recall, July of 2025, the administration decided we're going to hold all title funding for a minute because we need to revisit everything. That also created a little bit of a gap and delay in funding for this past school year that many people likely felt. And it eventually was passed, but what happened is a lot of school districts created contingency plans for funding that really pulled back on arts funding and funding in general for a lot of school districts to help balance budgets and things of that nature. And still seeing a lot of districts going through some of that as well. This year, appropriations is going back and forth at the federal level. Many of you may have seen the National Association for Music Education with 300 delegates on Capitol Hill a couple weeks ago. NAM also had 100 plus delegates, which I was a part of back in mid-May. So it's kind of a 1-2 punch between May and June to make sure that Congress understands the impact that they have when they make these decisions to put the delays on the table or to hold back funding. And I'll share in a little bit what some of those conversations at the federal level are being right now. So what we see at the federal level is you have 4 areas, and many of you are familiar with these. And if you do have questions in regards to title funding and what that means, particularly for your district, I'd be happy to do a follow-up conversation with any of the attendees today to talk through that. That's part of what I'd like to do and help people sort through all of this. So you have 4 different pieces of legislation that we've been currently targeting to make sure that funding continues. And one of the things I'll say is that there's opportunity for this funding to come through and be great. We need to get the funding to increase actually at the federal level because it keeps getting reauthorized at the same level that was authorized in 2015. And I think all of us can agree that costs have gone up a little bit since 2015. So if things keep getting authorized at the same level, it doesn't really catch the curve of inflation that's occurred over the last 10, 11 years, especially in the last 5. So the ask that we've had at the federal level is with Title I funding is to increase the funding to preserve eligibility in music education for students at Title I schools across the country, which is vitally important and impacts a lot of us that teach in Title I areas. Title II, which really impacts professional development, not only for music educators, it's teachers in general. Principals can get actual professional development for their conferences out of Title II. That funding is actually at risk at the federal level, and we're asking for that to be increased as well, because if we don't continue to fund the development of our teachers, it's that professional development becomes a little bit more difficult district to district. And third, I'm going to jump to the one in the middle left there is Title 4A. This supports student and academic enrichment grants, which is basically a district-wide initiative where it says, as an example, in order for all students to participate in music, they may need this type of resource. It could be music, it could be many different resources, but it's done as a grant application that goes up to the state. The state gets federal funding down to it. And with Title 4A, it can actually release funds, but it's got to be something that impacts all students that are involved in a certain area. It can't be for one school, one site only. It's got to be for a district initiative, and there is some accountability there, more so than what you would see on Title 1 or Title 2. And then National Endowment for the Arts, which funds a lot of the community arts programs that we have across the country that really do feed public school education in regards to academies that provide lessons, as an example, things of that nature. That is a small number in comparison to many things at the federal government level. However, it does have a huge impact on things that are happening in arts across the country. And with that, the headwinds we are facing as an industry right now, and again, this is my opinion and my purview of what I see in the industry right now. So we have on the table, there's proposed federal budget cuts that we're battling right now with the Appropriations Committee at the federal level. Title II is the one that's most at risk right now. In Title I, they were looking at taking about $4 billion out as well. I hear feedback from the federal government and the legislators that I'm in contact with that they're feeling pretty bullish that this back and forth game of it's going to be funded, not going to be funded. They know they need to fund education. So whether it's Republicans or Democrats I'm talking to, they do feel like the right thing is going to happen at the federal level. We have to make sure we follow that through continued communication. And if you're involved at all in advocacy with your local folks in Congress, right now is a really phenomenal time to reach out and make sure they understand that these pieces need to be funded. Tariffs on instruments and materials that support music education have been a big deal over the last 3 to 4 years. Significant increases affecting not just my sector of the industry, but whether it's guitars or ORF instruments or any resources that impact education. Anything that's been imported or requires materials that are imported as well cause the rising costs of everything. And one of the big concerns I have and our industry has is the gateway for students to start on instruments in 5th grade. If tariffs continue to be something that is something that's implemented at a very extreme level, it can create a barrier for students to be able to start on an instrument when they're in 5th grade. And we don't want that barrier for parents. And when we were in DC talking to legislators, it was about what can we do to make sure that tariffs do not become a barrier for our industry, to make sure that students have the opportunity to start on instruments, to make sure that we're not seeing a decrease in recruitment simply because of the import status and tariff status of our industry. And we're not as big of an industry as many others, and the adverse effect of tariffs that it has on the industry of our size. Just to put in perspective, the music products industry is about a $19 billion industry in comparison to companies like Apple that are $800 billion plus. So when you look at the global music products industry, a tariff can have a tremendous impact on a very smaller segment of our culture and community that we have across the country. And I do think that message was very much heard when we were on Capitol Hill these last 2 months. We also see that chronic absenteeism is still a issue across the country that principals, superintendents are talking about, and what better thing could help support that than the advancement of arts education across our country. That is a piece that I think you and I all know that could be of significant help in regards to what we can do to help improve the climate and education. Let's invest in arts education, and that can help support that. Uh, Number four, music and arts program cuts at the state level. We are seeing uh, a disproportionate impact of music educators being impacted across the country, uh, which is being impacted from the top down. And as state level controls come into place, it is really a state by state issue. It's not a one size fits all. And I'll share some thoughts on that further in a moment. The workforce pipeline erosion, 400,000 jobs are currently open in education across the country. Music education is obviously a big piece of that. We're very fortunate in the industry to right now have a few music education mentorship cohorts that are working on uh, a lot of strategies to help the pipeline. Consumer also, we are beginning a mentorship program this year where we're taking a certain amount of college students from our Consumer Institute, supplying them a mentor for the next 5 years. So if they're a junior in college, a mentor will be with them through their third year of college. And then our hope is once they go through our 5 year mentorship program, they become a mentor and they latch on to a junior in college and follow them through their first 5 years. So over the next 5 to 10 years, it's something that we can scale and help support as well. But a lot of initiatives to make sure that music ed students feel supported and also creating aspirations at the high school level to get more high school graduates involved in music education are two pieces that the industry is looking at. How do we augment that to make sure we can create more educators? And then lastly, the equity and access gap. This is primarily right now impacted by Title I. The ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act, which I'll talk about in a minute, has a big piece to do with this. And if you're not talking about ESSA within your district, it's something that it could really help shape the future of funding for your particular programs. And then lastly, a birth rate reality. This is something that music education is going to deal with as well, but we're having smaller families. And that's something it's not real new news. It's been happening over a course of time. Since 2007, we've had about a 17% drop. And what this is going to do longer term is have about a 3% decline in K through 12 public enrollment. And what that means really is for our industry to sustain and grow, we have to get really good at recruitment and retention and make sure that we're getting more music makers involved because as the percentage of students goes down, we tend to have and want to have a higher percentage of students in our music education programs. However, so all of that, I've kind of set the deck as far as this is the current state of where we're at. There are so many headwinds right now in my 25-year career that I haven't seen these all come together. But if you've seen what we've been through the last 5, 6 years, it's not really a surprise that these things are coming together. The good news is there is a path where we're going to see a light at the end of the tunnel. It's going to take a little bit of time, a little bit of elbow grease, and a very strong advocacy network in music education to make sure that, as we did back in the 1900s and all the way through, there were lots of different times where we went through a Great Depression and all these different things, but music education always sustained itself through all of this. And we're going to do the same through all of this as well. The good news is 92% of our kids in the United States right now have access to music education, which is phenomenal. I was just overseas in some countries in the Balkans, so Serbia, Bosnia, Croatia, in that area, and I was there on a music education trip with my daughter. She was playing a few concerts over there, and what I saw was a music education system was very much after school. It was very much not as widespread, and we're one of, I think, 5 countries in the world that have a music education system that is part of a well-rounded education in our school system. So that is something for us to celebrate and something for us to continue to remind ourselves that we have music in our schools. This is a beautiful thing. It's great for the culture of our country, and it's something that we're all a part of. With that 92%, 55% of all students in these programs participate in music education. So obviously we'd like to raise the bar and percentage of how many are actually participating during the school day when 92% have access to that. And then the other piece that we really need to continue to work on across the country is 8% of students have no access to music education during the school day. This means that 4.5 million students of the 50 million plus students in public school education currently do not have an option to be in music in K through 12 at all during the school day. So what that means is we have 27 million students in 90 million public schools that are participating in music in some way, shape, or form in the United States. And again, it's something to be celebrated, but not taken for granted, and something that we have to continue to strive to continue to move it forward, to continue to advance it, and continue to advocate together to make sure that we continue to grow and use our resources accordingly to make sure that arts education in our schools is strong. So if this picture does not look familiar to you, either you were born a little bit later and are a newer director, but this is back in 2015. So for those of you that were around at that time, it's a very special moment in the history of education where President Barack Obama signed into law the Every Student Succeeds Act. If you're not familiar with that, I'll have a QR code here in a second. I really recommend that you scan this QR code and get the information. But if you have not talked to your administration about this, the Every Student Succeeds Act, what it basically does is it means that in 2015, the federal government signed into law that music and arts education, as defined by the federal government, is part of a well-rounded education. This was extremely significant at that time because up until that time, Title I, Title II, Title IV, all those pieces I talked about, arts education was not on the radar as far as being eligible for that funding. When you mention to a superintendent or a principal or a curriculum director that, did you know that arts education is part of a well-rounded education as defined by the federal government? I still get people doing double takes on that. Say, what? What did you mean by that? Yeah, this was in 2015. And as we all believe, arts education should be part of a well-rounded education, and it's also recognized by the federal government as such. So if this is new news to you today, when you're going through budget discussions, it's a good little talking point reminder to tell your administration, by the way, we're not extracurricular. We are part of a well-rounded education, and we need to tout that, and we need to make sure it's understood because here's the reality of where I see things in music education right now as well is that with artificial intelligence and all of that, and I'm sure many of you are using it for efficiency and different things that we can do. It is being implemented so much into different jobs that we're seeing in the workforce. And there's studies that I've seen from McKinsey and Company in New York and others that are looking at what skills are they looking for out of their workforce, the candidates that they want to interview. One of the things I'd like to just encourage everyone to think about is that to have better citizens in the workforce, arts education is somewhere where it can actually have a high impact on the workforce in every state in our country. In Indiana, workforce development is a big deal right now. It's a big thing, as it is with many other states. And when I was in Washington, D.C., I had a conversation with the top legislator, and what I mentioned to them is that with workforce development, the thing you need to understand is that arts education creates durable skills that no other piece of what we experience can create. If you think of creative thinking, problem solving, communication, leadership skills, all those things that arts education does and music education does for our students, is that something you want for your future employees? And this legislator stepped back in his chair and is like, I never thought of it that way. And to me, it was like this aha moment, like, I wonder how many other legislators have never thought about it that way. And I think we all understand that. We all know that. I think we have to be more aggressive on who we're telling this story to, whether it's school board members, people in the school district, legislators that you might be connected to. If we all as an industry could just activate ourselves to make sure that we're speaking the same language, that music and arts creates better citizens in our communities and better folks for the workforce, I think that's going to resonate a lot more versus the olden day of music makes you smarter. Music has these inherent things and so forth. I think if we can connect the dots with music is going to help create better citizens, better folks in the workforce for employers going forward, no matter what career they go into, whether it's engineering, they're going to be a doctor or so forth. If they have an arts education background, it's going to make them a very much viable candidate for the career that they're going into. And these are called durable skills as well. These are skills that don't go away. These are skills that once you obtain them, I think some of us use the terms, boy, that person's really got some DNA in that area, whether it's communication skills or so forth. But the arts has no doubt had an impact on that, and is something we can very much lean into when it comes to music education and how we advocate for ourselves. So my perspective when I look at the overall market is that no two states are alike. Uh, that's for sure. No two districts are alike. You all have different policies and things that happen in the school districts. No two teachers are exactly alike. Every music educator I've talked to, and it's been thousands through the years, when I speak to someone, I can really tell that you have your own personal toolbox. Here's your strengths, here's your weaknesses, here's where you want to lean into. No two students are exactly alike, how they learn. But the unique thing that we all have is we all have access to the same tools to solve for a variety of issues we face on a daily basis. And the consistent messages I also see are, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. I wish I had more kids in my program. I'm afraid to rock the boat, and the people above me won't listen. The consistent thing I see when I hear all of these things is I talk to the folks and I say, well, let me peel back. Well, who have you talked to? Well, I haven't really talked to so and so about this. Well, I haven't really talked. There's usually a communication gap whenever I hear these things. So think about who you're advocating to, who you're talking to, who you're working with to advocate for your program as I work through all of these little tidbits here. And one of the things I see as we help schools across the country, this year we're doing about 700 professional development events across the country. And some of the top sessions that I actually see us doing relate to some of the highlighted areas there. Instrument inventory management, financial planning, business management. These are pieces where um, they're not on the podium. Um, the podium is extremely important, and I think we have a lot of great directors and people that can manage the kids on the podium. But what we're finding, especially with newer educators, is it's the off the podium pieces that there's a little bit of a struggle with, and we want to do what we can to help support that. So all the topics you see there are things that we hit on an annual basis, but the interesting thing, business management, inventory management, financial planning, those are all off the podium pieces. And what I see, the the thing I kid about with my team, and I'm not really kidding about this, is music educators, you have the skills to be a CEO. And if you think about the job of a CEO manages multi different departments: sales and marketing, operations, finance, technology, all of those pieces. So if you sit back in your chair and reflect upon what you do as a music educator on a daily basis, you can tell yourself, you know what, I kind of am a CEO. I do run all these different facets of my program, and uh, what that means is you're multifaceted, and I think your administration needs to understand that you're not just doing one thing. A music education or a band program, you're actually running lots of different pieces. And whether it's the financial side, whether it's making sure that you have the equipment that you need, to you're running logistics, which is operations, to you have technology platforms that you're probably using, like I saw Beam and UDB. So you're running all these different pieces. So don't relinquish the fact that you are a CEO of a music ed program. And if I could change everyone's title to, instead of music educator, CEO of your program, I would do that tomorrow. So to understand the whole chain of how all of the funding pieces work, what I want to do is bring together that path. I've talked about Title 1, 2, 4, all of the pieces, all the people of influence along the way. the federal budget allocation, what happens when they authorize the funding, it gets distributed to the states. And the states are the ones that you have a state Department of Education. There's a formula for Title One, Two, and Four that puts the money at the state level. Title One is based on the number of low income students in each state, as an example, and then they have that formula. Then the districts at the state level, if you look to the right, where it says state education agencies, uh, that's where the Department of Education is then responsible for the distribution to the school districts. And then in the bottom left, you see local education agencies. That is a school district which is receiving funding from the state based on the formulas. So then it's the school district's job to then disseminate it to the proper departments based on the allocation from the state education Department of Education. And then it's up to the school to then implement the funding. And in some cases, like I mentioned, Title IV earlier, uh, there is there's monitoring and accountability. What is going on my screen there? If somebody can jump in here and stop sharing for a second.
Thank you. I'll take care of that, Mike. Sorry.
No problem. I'm going to pause for a second, then I'll reshare.
Yes. I think you're good to start back.
Okay, great. Thank you.
hmm
Okay, so with the monitoring accountability, what you have is Title IV is the one that has the most accountability to it. And as you see state and district funding come through, those are pieces that you'll have to look at. Is there accountability on the funding that we are getting? Should you get awarded any of that state and federal funding that comes through? So Title I, Part A, to touch on what that is, again, to reiterate, this is for the public school attendance areas and schools that have high concentrations of children from low-income families as eligible to participate in Title I programs. It's one of the largest amount of fundings that we see in education to help support across the country. Because of that 2015 Barack Obama uh, signing into law ESSA, what that did is made Title I eligible for arts education. So if you have not talked to your Title I administrator in your district, or if you're in a smaller district and you basically report to the principal, it's an opportunity for you to really ask questions about Title I and see if there's any opportunity for you to provide resources for your students that you may not be currently receiving based under your current budget restraints. Title II is the professional development piece that I spoke about earlier. This is for reforming teacher and principal certification programs, providing support for new teachers, providing professional development for teachers and principals. The same people that do Title I usually know about Title II as well. And if it's not something your district's taken advantage of in regards to the development of teachers and providing resources, definitely a question that can be asked at your district and school level as well. And then Title IV this one's a little more complicated than the others, and it is Title IV Part A. There is a Part B and so forth that does not include the arts, but there's a lot of different pieces of Title IV-A. The biggest piece is it supports anything that supports well-rounded education. So with that being said, arts education is a piece of that. And it can help support many different initiatives that, again, is done at a district level. And you can talk to the title officer at the district as well and make sure that you're in the conversation in regards to Title IV Part A. The other piece that I think gets overlooked a little bit is foundation funding. There's over $500 billion in grants awarded annually in the United States. Community foundations make up a large percentage of that. As an example, in Elkhart County, we have an Elkhart Community Foundation. And back in 2016, I was able to help our local music educator get in front of the foundation with an ask for instruments because they had not received instruments in about 15 years around that time. So it was time to go through. A bond had not passed, and the music program was kind of up in arms saying, what can we do? And the foundation saw arts education as a vital piece of their community, and they want the local community school to be strong in regards to its music program. So they uh, awarded them a grant of $250,000 that year to replace instruments. So it could be an opportunity to look at if there's any community foundations in your area that would love to partner with arts education. That is a good thing. The one thing I would caution is just make sure that it's done at a time where the foundation is supplementing the program and not supplanting. And what that means is you don't want a foundation to come in and start funding it, and then the district says, well, you guys got that, so we don't have to help with repairs or music or anything else. So it has to be done in a very thoughtful manner when you approach a foundation and use that funding accordingly. And where you can find out about your local foundations is there's a foundation directory online, which is about $59 a month. So even if you spend 30 days for $59, you can go to that website and search under music programs, and you can search by zip code and see who's in your area. And in many cases, it'll list out who the board members are, who the organization is, what website do you go to apply to. I always recommend if you're looking at grants of any kind like this in your local community, go and try to have a cup of coffee with them first before you go and apply. Because what you don't want to do is blindly apply for a grant. It shows up on their desk. I don't know this person. I don't know what they're asking for. It gets shuffled to the bottom of the pile, and they'll look at the next person. You need to build relationships with your local community and your ecosystem in order to be I guess what I would call more eligible for funding when it comes to these community foundations and programs that are in your local area, but certainly something to consider if you haven't considered that yet. As you go through all of these pieces and you want to create a plan to then advocate, like I said earlier, every district is different, every teacher is different. When you create a plan, yours is going to potentially be with different stakeholders. So to create a plan, it does not have to be overly complicated. The messaging should be very simple. Putting your inventory together to make sure you have an understanding of what you have, whether it's music, instruments, music stands, whatever the case may be, everything that's in your room that you need to provide to the students. Do a full assessment and create a budget for yourself. If I wanted to maximize how big my program is going to be this year and I can provide for every student, here is what I would need. And start at your wish list of this is utopia. And let's put that together. And then the next step would be identifying stakeholders. And depending on the size of district, out west in California and other places, there's visual arts, performing arts heads, there's curriculum directors, school board members. One of the things with school board members is sometimes they have a say and sometimes they don't. Regardless of how your district operates, I highly encourage every program to make sure you're talking to the school board at least once a quarter on an annual basis. And it doesn't always have to be, here is what I need. With a school board, you should be doing more preventative maintenance with that school board, getting your parents in front of them, doing 3-minute testimonials, because that's typically what they allow at a time, about here's the great things that our band program did this last quarter, and here's why it's important for my child and for the students. And talk to the board about the importance of this activity and how great of an impact it's having on these students and how it's creating better learners for their district, and make sure that the school board members have visibility to what's happening. Because what tends to happen is if you're not in front of the school board for a period of time, they're not thinking about you. They're starting to think about other pieces of the curriculum and other ways they can improve, and they need to connect that dot between arts education and the overall health and culture of the school district. And if the school board's not hearing that from you all, it's quite likely they're not hearing much of it from anybody else. So have that on your radar as far as stakeholders. School board, vitally important. And then presenting the plan, connect the impact we all understand to the goals of the district. when I talked about the durable skills earlier and things of that nature, there is a very good narrative here to present to a principal or an administrator to say, if we do this right and we get more kids in music, it actually is going to help the district. There's a big upside for the district too, in that more students that participate in arts education creates a better FTE expense, because you have a certain amount of teachers taking care of, in some cases, a few hundred kids. Uh, and if those few hundred kids did not have that class, they would have to spread it out amongst many other teachers. So there's also the argument economically that it has a benefit on the district the more that come into arts for that elective. It's a beautiful thing. And this is something too. I mean, if anyone wants to reach out to me personally, I have an expansive team that we've helped put plans together like this for districts all over the country, and we're happy to help connect those dots and those pieces. And some of those dots are, I'm helping a district here in the few weeks to get 16 high school students to be able to do their inventory and put the pieces together. This district in particular I'm working with, they have about 1,500 instruments, and they're like, I don't know how to get our head wrapped around all this. And I said, well, how many student leaders do you have? Oh, I have a lot of student leaders. Well, why don't we take 16 of your student leaders, put some teams in action, and over the course of 2 days, we'll take an active inventory and see what we have. So there's ways to put the pieces together, regardless if you're in a situation of that many instruments or even a smaller program to take inventory. And when you're putting plans together in regards to instrumental music education, there is a lifespan and depreciation schedule that's available. And this changes the conversation with financial folks in the district, because I have a firm belief that CFOs in school districts believe that instruments are kind of this mysterious thing that's in the back of the band hall that, yeah, they're taking care of them. That's great. It's their thing. But I'm going to go look at the assets that the school needs, make sure school buses and desks and all of that are taken care of. And but when you approach a CFO and say, oh, by the way, there is an expected a life to musical instruments, and they are capital assets. Just saying those couple of words perks up their ears and changes the conversation. What do you mean these are assets? I thought these were just mysterious musical instruments in the band room. No, these are owned by the district, and most everything that's over 15 years is worth $0, and they're fully depreciated, which also then gets the attention of a CFO and gets them thinking about, well, what can we do to help make your inventory a little more stable, a little more solid? Because if your repair budget's going up and your inventory is aged, the district really doesn't have an argument to say you have everything you need. It's like, no, we have that data. So there's a way to put that data together as well. And the benefits of having a solid inventory system helps that. Creating an annual assessment of instruments, you'll know the value of your inventory. It's something you'll want to give to your supervisor on an annual basis. Track your repair and maintenance budget to make sure that they're giving you a repair and maintenance budget. I've heard of some districts having repair and maintenance budgets of like $500, and you and I both know that that's like repairing a tuba and maybe one other instrument, and you're done. So realistic repair and maintenance budgets is a helpful thing as well. And then tracking where instruments are as well. There's ways to check instruments in and out, which you want to avoid loss at the end of the year. If a student moves and accidentally takes the instrument with them, things like that, things happen. There's a way to track that accordingly. I do want to talk briefly about this platform called Cut Time. Because I want to save time for questions, I'm not going to go as deep into the platform other than to say, if you're familiar with the charm system that was around for a lot of years, this replaced that. But more importantly, we created our own inventory system at Conselmer back in 2013. We had that for about 7 years, decided we needed a boost in innovation and a new platform. So we partnered with Cut Time, and what they've done is effectively created the best model I've seen of a back office program for music education. If you haven't explored it yet, I go ahead and Google Cut Time, and you can see their website. The neat thing we have is they developed a free inventory platform in Cut Time that if you reach out to myself or any of my Conselmer colleagues on my team, we can set you up with a free inventory system through Cut Time in perpetuity that you can use. And it has barcode scanning on your phones. You can assign instruments. It has the depreciation schedule you saw earlier plugged in. and very easy to input data and use. And if you don't have anything robust, or if you're using a library system or things of that nature that's just very cumbersome in regards to musical instrument inventory, highly recommend using this, and it can be a big benefit to you and your program. So to touch on that, what I want to walk through is just some resources I have that can correlate to what I just went through that you can utilize. Consummer Institute, we have early bird registration open right now. If you've not attended, it's an opportunity. If you're an active director, we have tracks for 5 year, years 1 through 5, years 5 through 15, and 15 to 30. And it's a 3.5 day event. We have the second week of June every year. And it allows you to collaborate in an environment where it's a very tight niche group, and we cap it at 375 people. And we have some great concerts. This last year, we had Queen Cora and Sean Jones at the event, both doing jazz and performances. But we have 105 sessions that occur, and it's a great opportunity to get your boost in person in Elkhart, Indiana. You get to see our plants. We do a lot of advocacy work during CSI as well to arm you with lots of tools and resources for that as well. Uh, Music Professor is a self-paced online learning platform that we've had for about 5 years now. And we give this to a lot of districts for free to use to help supplement, to help put things in front of students where if you have somebody that's more advanced and somebody that's trying to catch up, there's little bite-sized chunks of beginner flute lessons. Let's start somebody on the flute and get them to, uh, book two of essential elements through a lot of these short videos that they have in there. It's also a very helpful tool as well and can help with recruitment, retention of students. In regards to the professional development and leveraging Title II funding, we have 180 plus clinicians that do professional development all over the country. We help support the honorariums of all the students, where the hosts support the travel that's needed for all these clinicians. But it's really doing a great job of providing relevant professional development to many school districts across the country, and honor bands and things of that nature. So if it's an opportunity for us to collaborate, there's an opportunity there to use us there as well. We also have a signature school program, which when we collaborate with the district to work on the plan for the ask and the funding and all of these pieces, many times the district says, "You've helped us so much, how can we partner better with Conselmer?" The signature school program is a part of that. And what that does is it creates intentional support from us to you. We set up a 3 year plan that says over the next 3 years, we're going to provide professional development, guest artists, things of that nature. We customize it to your program, and we agree that this is what we're going to do the next 3 years. And then at the end of 3 years, we revisit that with you again and say, is everything on the table that is going to keep this going strong? And if there's tweaks we need to make, gives us the opportunity to say maybe we need to lean in here more or there as we work with each other as a signature school program partnership. So we're very excited about this. This is at the K-12 level, school district level, as well as the university level as well. And then we do offer 5 years of financing, which is something that's overlooked when it comes to the ask when you're working with the school district on looking at what you can do to get funding. This allows you to get instruments up front. So as an example, if you need $50,000 of instruments, there would be a little bit of a finance interest payment put into that. So over the course of 5 years, you might actually pay $60,000. So you're paying a little over $52,000 a year for 5 years, but little over $10,000 dollars per year for 5 years to get you to that $50,000 mark. With interest. And what that does is it makes it predictable for the district. They know over the next 5 years they're paying X amount per year. And this is all done in conjunction with your local school music dealer. And we basically act as your bank on behalf of the local school music dealer as well. And then from an advocacy standpoint, the way we look at it is we hit it at all levels, the local, state, and national level. Especially right now more than ever, we're doing a lot in Elkhart to advocate. I've become good friends with our local mayor, our chamber of commerce, local school district. We have a new superintendent I'm getting to know. But how do we engage the local community so that arts is part of our DNA, and as you can imagine, with the history in Elkhart, they really see the arts as a big part of the founding of our community. So it's important for us to lean in and support. And then at the state levels, making sure every state has a coalition. I'm on the Support Music Coalition, working with NAM to make sure that states have a lobbying entity in their states that are actually looking at the bills that are happening at the state level. Um, if you're not familiar with what's happening at your state level, I encourage everybody to become part of some state coalition to have a voice there as well. And then at the national level, with NAM and NAFME and others, a lot of work to be done there as well. And this is basically how we look at those three buckets: local, state, and national. What impact can we make? So with that, I've shared a lot of information with you all today, and greatly appreciate the time to be a part of this special day. Um, these are the people that are on my team that support different parts of the country. Many of you know Dr. William Irvin, our Director of Educational Partnerships and Institutional Sales. He is the consummate dot connector for a lot of things for us. Aaron Cole runs our Consumer Institute and our clinician program. And then the four folks to the left you see manage the different parts of the country, our educational support managers. Those are also the ones working with the school districts and universities directly about what we can do to help support their programs going forward. So with that, I'm going to go off and come back on screen here. I'm going to stop sharing and see if there are any questions at all that I could pose with the time we have left, if that's okay, Mr. Denson.
Yes, several people have. Someone asked if you wouldn't mind sharing your slide, your presentation. Um,
You got
so
it. I think there's a Google folder you have to put stuff in, correct? That I can just drop it
yes,
into? Okay.
yep.
I will put it there.
Okay. Let's see what other questions are in the chat. A lot of people have said they're going to reach out to you to discuss the inventory management through cut time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you just want to reach out to me, I'll get you connected with the appropriate party to make that happen.
I had a quick question too, Mike.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
if I'm a, a new teacher starting out, year 1 to 5, um, and I'm looking to try to get active, and I know you kind of hit a lot of points in this presentation. Where do I start in terms of advocacy? What would you say will be the first place that I need to try to hit in terms of whether it's getting instruments or getting funding or whatever
Yeah.
what would you say the first step would be for that person?
So for new folks getting into it, it's a three-step process that I like to say. It's listen, learn, then take action. So if I'm new to that school and that program, you're gonna have to listen for a little bit to understand who am I reporting to, who are the people that I need to be talking to. What you don't want to do is jump in and just start taking action. Like, I need this, I need that, I need that. And I think the mistake I see made a lot is taking action before understanding what you're in. So understand your program, so that listen and then learn is really that first year. And some catch on to it quicker than others. So when you feel like you're like, all right, I understand the lay of the land here. I've done a lot of listening and, understanding where the program has been, talking to the administration about, what has been supported, doing your research, do a little bit of homework. And then once you feel like you're grounded and you have an understanding of where this program's been and what I've inherited and where I'm at, then it's like, all right, now here's where I want to take it, and then I can take action. So that's probably the biggest mistake I see, is always that take action before understanding what's happened. And then the administration's like, well, why are you coming to us with this when we did that already last year? And, it's so just making sure you listen, learn, then take action.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Great question.
Okay, so if there are no more questions, I don't see any in the chat. I want to give a huge thank you. Obviously, Mike, we appreciate you and all the things that you do for us through Conselmer and your partnership throughout the years. And we look forward to many more years of that. I would also like to kick it over to Adam now, because he will play our sponsor video as we prepare for the next session. Thank you again, Mike.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Bill Rose. I'm the COO of Lung Trainers, and I'd like to introduce you to some of our products. We are a company that specializes in performance breathing, and we have a lung trainer for every instrument and voice. So I'm going to show you a couple of them, but before I do that, I'm going to talk just a minute about what the lung trainer actually does. The lung trainer is an equation of air pressure and airflow. The one that I have here is for brass, and we are partners with the Southern University Marching Band, and this one is actually one that was commissioned by Southern, and it uses airflow holes and a special calibrated balloon. When you have the opportunity to use the lung trainer, you can use it for sax and clarinet, percussion, flute, oboe and bassoon, trombone, and of course we have several models for the brass. They're a fantastic tool. If you want to know more information, you can look at our website at lungtrainers.com, or you can email our National Accounts Advisor, May, at lungtrainers.com. We look forward to hearing from you.
My favorite thing about UDB is the fact that students can see themselves. They can actually go in the app and actually pick the spot that they're in on the field, and it can tell them the entire show. So let's say if the day of a show, a kid gets sick, you know, they can go and choose that spot, and the app is going to tell them exactly where they need to go for that show. So they can follow along much better with the app, because it can go play by play. You can have it go to the drill speed that you're going. So you're actually going the same time as the app is going. So it's very unique. It takes a lot to put these shows together. I know most people see halftime shows and they think, you know, it's just like turning a light switch on and it just appears. With this program now, you can definitely experiment with some things. You can create some things that you didn't even think was even possible. So this has allowed us to really broaden our horizon on shows and how we approach them by using the UDB app.
We were already digital, and the format that we were using worked at the time for what we were doing. And the students were happy with it. And I said, hey, there's something new coming out down the pipe. We're definitely going to give it a try, and we'll see. We'll weigh one against the other. And it was like a one-day turnaround.
I personally love Bing because not only does it cut the music a certain way where I can see it better, but you can also write notes and annotate it on it as well without your paper moving around or you losing your notes and stuff like that. So I can turn off all my Wi-Fi boots. I'm still on my music. But then the two, I can be on the app and the director can change the music for me, whatever song he wants to look at now. So we're looking at song A, he says, all right, we're going to go to song B, rather than me trying to flip through and find song B. Click. All right, you're already on it. I think that is so cool because that just, it changes right in front of you. Like, what just happened? But it's like, it takes away the time that is used to try to find and pull up the music too.